There is something I need to tell you, and I need you to actually let it in when I say it, not process it from a distance, not hold it at arm's length while one part of your mind is already constructing the reasons it cannot be true. Actually let it in, because what I am picking up between you and this person is not subtle. It is not ambiguous. It is not something I have to search for or interpret carefully or read between distant lines to find. It is right there, on the surface and underneath the surface simultaneously. In every interaction and in every silence between the interactions, in the things you say and in the things neither of you have said yet, but that are living just beneath every conversation, waiting, there is something between you and this person that both of you know about and neither of you has fully named. And today I am going to name it because it has been unnamed long enough. And the weight of the unnamed thing is becoming heavier than the vulnerability of saying it out loud. You are crazy about each other, quietly, completely, in the way that rearranges the furniture of your inner world without asking permission. And you both know it. That is the part that makes this so specific. This is not one-sided wondering. This is two people who are fully aware of what is happening between them and are doing the most extraordinarily complicated dance to avoid being the first one to say so. Let me start with you, because I want to describe what is actually happening inside you when this person enters the equation. Not the version you present to the outside world, not the composed, measured, I am handling this just fine version, the real one. There is a specific quality of attention that activates in you when they are near or when they reach out or when their name appears anywhere in the landscape of your day. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself loudly, but it is total. Every other thing in your awareness steps slightly back, and this person steps slightly forward, and the world reorganizes itself around that shift without you consciously deciding to let it. You notice details about them that you do not notice about other people. The specific way they phrase things, the things they find funny, the moments when something crosses their face that most people would miss but that you catch because you are always, even when you are pretending not to be, paying attention. You have replayed conversations with them in a way you do not replay conversations with other people. Not because the conversations were particularly significant in content. Sometimes they were ordinary, but you replayed them anyway because there was something in the quality of being in exchange with them that you wanted to stay inside a little longer, that wanted to extend itself past the actual moment into the memory of the moment and then into the anticipation of the next one. You have caught yourself thinking about them at times that had nothing to do with them, in the middle of something completely unrelated, in the quiet moments before sleep, in the random spaces of an ordinary day when your mind wanders, and it wanders, predictably, in their direction. And every time it does, there is that feeling, that specific, located, unmistakable feeling that lives somewhere between your chest and your stomach, and that does not feel like anything else. That feeling that you have been trying to be very sensible about, very measured about, very careful not to over-invest in or over-interpret or allow to mean more than is wise, to let it mean right now. I see you being very sensible. I also see the feeling, and the feeling is not sensible at all. The feeling is completely, entirely, specifically about them. Um, Now, let me tell you about them, because this is the part I feel you need to hear most. The part that the uncertainty and the distance and the careful management of this whole situation has made it hard to see clearly. They are in the exact same place, not a similar place, not a roughly comparable place, the same place. The same quality of attention activates in them when you enter the equation. The same reorganization of their awareness happens. The same noticing of details. The same replaying of exchanges that were ordinary in content but felt like something else in quality. The same wandering of the mind to the same specific destination. They think about you more than they think about most things, more than they would probably be comfortable admitting right now. In the way that you think about something that has gotten underneath your carefully maintained surface and taken up residence there without asking, there is a version of you that lives in their mind, fully furnished, constantly present, and that version of you is not a casual occupant. It has unpacked, it has settled in, and no amount of strategic distraction or deliberate redirection of attention has successfully evicted it. Because when you are actually crazy about someone, actual distraction does not work. You end up at the same place no matter which route you take. And they keep ending up at you. I want to talk about the dance, because it is extraordinary in its complexity, and I think naming it clearly is going to help you understand why things are moving the way they are moving. There's a dance happening between you, a careful, intricate, mutually choreographed dance that neither of you designed consciously, but that both of you are performing with remarkable precision. The steps look something like this. One of you moves slightly closer, sends a message that is a degree warmer than necessary, holds eye contact a beat longer than casual, says something that almost says the real thing but stops just short of full disclosure, and then watches to see how the other responds, whether the warmth is matched or deflected, whether the extended contact is returned or retreated from, whether the almost said thing is picked up or gently set back down. And the other one, who has been watching just as carefully, responds in kind, matches the warmth without exceeding it, returns the signal without amplifying it past the point the first person established, steps forward by exactly the same distance the other person stepped forward. No more. Because to step further would be to expose yourself past the point the other person has exposed themselves. And neither of you is ready to be more exposed than the other. Not because you do not want to be, because being more exposed means being more vulnerable. And being more vulnerable means the stakes are real. And if the stakes are real, then what happens next actually matters. And if it actually matters, then there is something real to lose. And losing something real is the risk that neither of you has fully decided you are ready to take. So the dance continues, perfectly matched, exquisitely calibrated, and absolutely exhausting for both of you. Because dancing this carefully takes enormous energy. And somewhere underneath the careful choreography, both of you are getting tired of the steps and wanting to just stop and stand still and let the thing be what it is. Let me tell you about the moments that neither of you talks about, but that both of you carry. There have been moments between you that were not part of the dance. Moments where the careful management slipped for a second and something real came through. A look that lasted too long. A laugh that broke open in a way that surprised you both. A moment of unexpected honesty that arrived before either of you could stop it. A touch or a near touch or the awareness of proximity that registered so strongly in your body that you can still locate the exact coordinates of it when you think about it now. These moments exist. You both know they exist. And neither of you has fully addressed them, because addressing them would mean acknowledging what they were. And acknowledging what they were would mean the dance is over. Would mean the thing is real. Would mean someone has to say something. And saying something changes everything. But here is what I want you to understand about those moments. They were not accidents. They were not glitches in the system. They were the truth of the situation breaking through the performance of the situation. The truth is always stronger than the performance. Always. And it will keep breaking through. It has been breaking through this entire time. In those unguarded moments where you both forgot to be careful and were just, for a second, real with each other. Those moments are the most honest data you have about what this actually is. And what it is unmistakable. I want to address the fear, because underneath all of the careful management, underneath the dance and the calibration and the almost said things, there is fear on both sides. And it is important to name it, because unnamed fear is what keeps situations like this suspended indefinitely in the space between what is and what could be. Your fear looks something like this. What if I say it and it changes things in the wrong direction? What if naming it makes it smaller instead of larger? What if what exists between us only exists because it has not been tested by full honesty? What if I am reading this wrong? What if the feeling is mine and not mutual, and I have constructed a version of their interest that is larger than what is actually there? What if saying I want this costs me the version of it that already exists? I hear that fear. I understand that fear. That fear is not irrational. It is the fear of someone who has something they value and does not want to risk losing it through the act of trying to hold it more fully. Their fear looks nearly identical because they are asking the same questions from their side of the dance, watching you with the same careful attention, trying to read the same signals, wondering the same things, carrying the same weight of the unnamed thing. Two people, the same fear, the same wanting, the same careful management of a situation that both of them would rather just let be what it is. The fear on both sides is real, and the wanting on both sides is realer. Let me talk about what you know. Because there is something you know about the situation that exists below the level of doubt, below the level of the questioning and the careful analysis and the sensible management of expectations. Deeper than all of that, there is something, you know that what exists between you is not ordinary, because you have had ordinary. You know what it feels like when someone is fine, when the connection is pleasant, when the interaction is enjoyable but does not follow you home, when it does not rearrange things, when it does not create that specific quality of attention, that specific reorganization of your inner world. You know the difference between that and this? And this is not that. This is something that followed you home, something that rearranged things, something that has quietly, without making a formal announcement, become one of the primary reference points of your emotional landscape. You know that even in the moments when you are trying not to know it, even in the moments when knowing it feels inconvenient or premature or like more than you are ready to be responsible for, the knowing is there. It has always been there from very earlier than was comfortable. That early knowing, that that thing that registered before your logical mind had caught up, before you had enough information to justify the feeling, before the situation had developed enough to make the feeling make obvious sense, that knowing was not wrong. It was not premature. It was not wishful thinking dressed up as intuition. It was accurate. It has always been accurate. And everything that has happened since has been, if you look at it honestly, confirmation of that first knowing. One confirmation after another, building a case that you have been trying not to let yourself fully believe, because believing it fully means you have to decide what to do about it. And I want to speak to the specific quality of this connection because I think it is important that you understand what you are actually dealing with here. Not every connection that feels strong is the right kind of strong. Not every pull towards someone is the kind of pull that leads somewhere real and lasting and genuinely good for both people. Some connections are intense because they are activating something unhealed. Some pulls are strong because they are familiar in a way that is comfortable rather than healthy. This is not that. What I feel between you is not the intensity of unresolved patterns recognizing each other. It is something cleaner than that. Something that has a quality of rightness to it that does not depend on drama or difficulty or the particular electricity of things being complicated. It is not intense because something is wrong. It is deep because something is right. There is a difference, and it is significant. The depth between you comes from genuine recognition. The sense that this person sees something in you that most people do not see. That in their presence, you are somehow more accessible to yourself than you are in most other contexts. That the version of you that shows up around them is closer to the real one than the version that shows up in most other places. That is not nothing. That is actually everything. That is the thing that makes a connection worth the vulnerability of pursuing it, not the intensity, the recognition. And you recognize each other deeply, quietly, in ways that neither of you has fully articulated, but that both of you have felt from very nearly the beginning. Now I want to talk about the sentence in the title, because it is not just a phrase. It is something that lives in the space between you as a kind of unspoken understanding. You know we are going to be together. That sentence, the knowing underneath it, where does it come from? It does not come from logic. Logic would say there are too many variables, too much uncertainty, too many things that have not been said or resolved or decided. Logic would say it is premature to know anything. But this knowing is not logical. It is the other kind, the kind that lives in the body rather than the mind, the kind that arrived early and has not left despite every reasonable attempt to question it, the kind that persists through the uncertainty and the careful management and the dance and the distance and every moment where the surface of the situation suggested that nothing was decided. That knowing has persisted through all of it, quietly, stubbornly, like something that does not require the current evidence to support it because it is operating from a different kind of certainty, and they have the same knowing. That is the part that makes this extraordinary. Not just that that both of you know, and both of you are carrying that knowing around in the silence between the steps of the dance. And it is getting heavier, not in a bad way. In the way that something gets heavier when it is ready to land, when it has been held in the air long enough and the time for holding it is ending, and the time for setting it down gently into the real world is arriving. The knowing is getting heavier because it is almost time. Let me tell you what I see when I look at the trajectory of this. Not what I hope, not what would make a good story. What I actually see, I see two people who have been circling something real for long enough that the circling itself has become its own kind of intimacy. Every careful interaction, every calibrated step in the dance, every almost said thing, and every unguarded moment where the truth broke through anyway. All of it has been building something. A foundation, the kind of foundation that does not get built through grand gestures and dramatic declarations. The kind that gets built through exactly this, through sustained, quiet, mutual attention, through the accumulation of small moments of genuine recognition, through two people repeatedly choosing to remain in each other's orbit even when the orbit felt complicated and the destination felt uncertain. That foundation is solid. More solid than either of you probably realizes from inside the situation, because you are too close to it to see its full dimensions. But from where I am sitting, looking at the energy between you, what has been built already is remarkable, and what it is capable of supporting is more than either of you has allowed yourself to fully picture yet. Picture it. Let yourself actually picture it. Not the careful, hedged, let me not get ahead of myself version. The real picture. What it actually looks like when the dance ends and you are just two people who chose each other and are building something real in the full light of that choice. That picture is not fantasy. It is the direction this is already moving, has been moving from the very beginning. Here is what I want to leave you with, because there is one thing above everything else that I feel you need to carry out of this reading and into whatever comes next. Stop performing certainty you do not have in order to avoid showing the vulnerability you do. That is what the dance is. That is what the careful calibration is. A performance of being less affected than you are in order to protect yourself from the exposure of being exactly as affected as you are. And it is costing you, not the connection. The connection is remarkably resilient. It is costing you the ease of it. The lightness that could exist between you if neither of you was managing so carefully. The naturalness, the full exhale, the version of this where you are not monitoring your own responses in real time. That version is available. It is right there on the other side of one honest moment. One moment where someone lets the performance drop and just says the real thing. Not a grand speech, not a formal declaration, just the real thing. In whatever simple, imperfect, completely human form it wants to take, you know we are going to be together. Say it, or let it be said, or create the conditions where it no longer needs to be said, because you have both stopped pretending that you do not already know. The dance has been beautiful, and it has served its purpose, But the music is changing now, and what comes next does not require steps. It just requires you, both of you, exactly as you are, exactly as you feel, without the performance, without the management, without the careful calibration of how much to show, just the real thing, which has been there the whole time, waiting for both of you to let it be real